On a cold spring day in 1848, the town of Seneca Falls, New York, watched as wagons filled with men and women rolled to a stop before the local Congregational church. The people in those wagons had come to a meeting called by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, as well as a few of their neighbors and friends. Some 300 women and men traveled long distances to attend. Before they left, 100 of them, 68 women and 32 men, would sign what became known as the Declaration of Sentiments. This astonishing moment for women grew directly out of the abolitionist movement. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott met each other in London at an anti-slavery convention, where both were horrified because women were consigned to separate seats in the balcony. Stanton and Mott agreed then and there to call a convention in which women's rights and women's freedoms would be discussed. It took them another 7 years to fulfill their promise. But when they at last had a date, they distributed flyers, wrote to friends and acquaintances, and knocked on doors to get the word out. When 300 people showed up, they were surprised and gratified. At the first meeting, attendees could not agree on who should chair the convention because they didn't think it appropriate for a woman to do so. In the end, they invited James Mott, the husband of Lucretia, and Frederick Douglass to act as chairs and conveners. The Declaration of Sentiments copied the form and the structure of the Declaration of Independence. This was a deliberate strategy adopted by the small group of female leaders. Their aim was to suggest what might have been included in the Declaration of Independence had women been involved in writing that document. Like the Declaration of Independence, the Declaration of Sentiments had 16 grievances, each a statement of what women suffered. We note as we take a look at this Declaration of Sentiments how much distance had been covered in the half-century since the Revolutionary period. But we also note what has happened in the years between the two declarations. Men, the Declaration of Sentiments proclaimed, had systematically deprived women of rights due to every human being. He, the universal he, had compelled her to submit to laws in the formation of which she had no voice. He, again the universal he, had withheld from her rights which are given to the most ignorant and degraded men, both natives and foreigners. Note the women are conscious of the fact that no matter how well educated or how wealthy, they could not exercise the right to vote. Propertied immigrants, in contrast, many of whom could neither read nor write in English, could quickly acquire the vote. Their grievances included complaints about the many forms of economic discrimination that women suffered. For example, the women wrote, "He has taken from her all right in property, even to the wages that she earns. He has monopolized nearly all of the profitable employments, and from those she is permitted to follow, she receives but a scanty remuneration." She was deprived of the right to a good education and a good job. As one grievance noted, he closes against her all the avenues of wealth and distinction which he considers most honorable to himself. As a teacher of theology, medicine, or law, she is not known. Women also complained that they didn't have rights even within their own families. They wrote, "He has so framed the laws of divorce as to what shall be the proper causes of divorce in case of separation, and the guardianship of the children goes to him, not to her. Perhaps most damning of all, the women complained that men had undermined their claims to moral guardianship and her faith in herself. Even that sphere which is assigned to women, moral virtue, the spiritual well-being of the family, wrote the women, he has denied her by failing to acknowledge that she can effectively participate in the church and church worship. He had, in short, made her morally an irresponsible being, so she can commit many crimes with impunity, provided they be done in the presence of her husband. He, the universal he, had created a false public sentiment by giving to the world a different code of morals for men and women, by which moral delinquencies which exclude women from society are not only tolerated, but deemed of little account in men. He has endeavored in every way that he could to destroy her confidence in her own powers, to lessen her self-respect, and to make her willing to lead a dependent and abject life. In other words, the consciousness of women was so imbued with the ideas of domesticity that there wasn't any way really for her to move out of it, short of the kind of protest out of which the Declaration came. The very first grievance, and the one that most of us ultimately remember, stimulated an active women's movement. The complaint read, "He has never permitted her to exercise her inalienable right to the elective franchise." Virtually all the others passed unanimously, but the idea that women should have the right to vote, although it did pass, was itself an extraordinarily controversial feature in 1848. Signatories to the Declaration of Sentiments came from a variety of walks of life. Many of them had been people involved in the abolitionist movement, and not a few of them were women who had either become widows or evaded the constraints of coverture in one way or the other. But note, the emphasis within the Declaration of Sentiments was not on equality for women, but on enabling women to exercise the kinds of rights that would enable them to contribute to their families and become independent actors and recognized voices. Women wanted what we would now call human rights.